Will Witt is at it again with his dubious street interview theatrics, and this time his latest cowardly dig is aimed at a very vulnerable demographic, transgender children. When I saw this, I realized that it was something that I needed to respond to, so I will do that in just a moment. Hello Internet, this is Sophia, the Red Angel, doing my best on this channel to bolster social justice and the general betterment of society through the powers of logic, reason, and respect for evidence. If you like that, then subscribe to this channel, ring the bell, share, and comment. I also would like to remind everyone that I now am on a new update schedule on this channel. I will now be uploading a new video every Sunday, as well as the first and third Thursday of every month. I make this change in hopes that this slight reduction in my schedule will allow me to focus on improving the quality of my videos. Anyway, I haven't been making that many response videos because, well, I'm still working on the process of optimizing my production workflow for response videos. But when I saw Will Witt's latest video on Prager University, I realized that this was one that needed to be responded to. So, here goes.
What's up guys, this is Will Witt with PragerU, and we're here on Rodeo Drive talking to people about whether or not children can choose their own gender. Let's do it.
That's right. There is nothing wrong with your galactic translator. You heard exactly what you thought you heard. Will Witt is out there interviewing random people on the street, at best, about an issue that profoundly affects the life of a very misunderstood and marginalized minority, transgender children. Is he going to make sure that these interviews are done in as objective a manner as possible? Is he going to treat the opinion of non-experts as what they are, which is non-expert opinions that really cannot be used for much beyond measuring how much the general populace understands a given subject? And so as to assure that they are good for at least that, is he going to do anything to assure us that the opinions of these non-experts are represented accurately, or that this is even an unbiased sampling of non-expert opinions? Well, since it is Will Witt of Prager University that we are talking about, I would not count on it.
Do you guys think an 8-year-old can choose their own gender if they want?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They can decide what they want to wear and who they want to be.
Well, these two non-experts, even though they are not experts, seem to have opinions that are informed by the opinions of those who are experts. That opinion being that it is best to allow a child to experience their childhood as part of the gender that they identify with. Let us see if the same goes for other people whom Will Witt interviews.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's something that you feel in your heart.
I believe an 8-year-old is a child of God, so consequently, choices are theirs.
Maybe they just want to fulfill their wishes if that's what's going to make them happy.
Yes, an 8-year-old is mature enough to decide if they want to be male or female or cis or trans, whatever it may be.
Yes, it looks like that is in fact the case. As long as Will Witt is not tripping up these non-experts with leading questions, and I'm talking about non-experts that he probably ambushed by surprise, at this point, even the ones whose footage he included in his end product video seem to get it. Again, I should remind y'all that these people are not experts, so what they say tells us nothing about how transgender children ought to be treated. It only tells us how much the typical person found walking on Rodeo Drive understands about what is best for transgender children, and it can only tell us even that if it is an unbiased sample, which of course in the case of the video I'm responding to, I have no way of verifying that. That said, I think that I should skip forward and show you one really poignant thing that one of his interviewees said.
I don't remember what it's like to be 8 years old, but I just remember doing whatever I wanted to do instinctually.
See? She gets it. She got to experience her childhood without adults forcing her to live as part of a gender that completely clashes with her psyche. That is a privilege that every child ought to have, transgender children included. This wonder of childhood is being denied, however, when transgender children are forced to go through childhood masquerading as someone that their brain insists they cannot be.
When I was 8 years old and I told my mom I wanted to be a dragon, my mom was like, no, you're a boy. You can't be a dragon, you know?
Okay, so your mother said that you cannot be a dragon. So? Did you suffer terrible trauma from not being allowed to live your childhood as a dragon? Trauma that haunted you for the rest of your life? What are you trying to get at here, Witt?
And so it's like your parent kind of has a responsibility that if you're a child, you say you want to do something, to then tell you, no, you can't actually do this. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Ah, I see what you are getting at. You are suggesting that because your mother did you a good turn by insisting that you could not live your childhood as a dragon, that the same would apply if parents of a transgender child do not allow the child to live as a member of the gender that they identify with. And that means that it is time for another installment of Fallacy Exposed. And your fallacy, Witt? Well, frankly, it seems like you've compounded two fallacies here, so I will discuss one and then the other. The first of these fallacies is one that you seem to have quite an affinity for. That fallacy is false analogy. False analogy is when, on account of two things being the same in one respect, you assume that they must be the same in other respects, to the point that you make conclusions about one of those things based on what is known about the other, and do so to the point of ignoring other ways in which the two things might be fundamentally different from one another. In this case, you are treating your mother putting her foot down to you living as a dragon, as though it were the same as the parents of a transgender child forcing that child to live as their birth-assigned gender. But in reality, the two are very different. You see, there is plenty of evidence of the harm that can follow a transgender child well into adulthood if they are prevented from living their childhood in accordance with the gender that they identify as. For your analogy to be valid, there would also have to be evidence that it is harmful to prevent a child who identifies as a dragon from living as one. Frankly, though, I do not know of any such evidence, and in preparing to make this response video, I Googled to see if I could find anything. I even risked making a fool of myself in front of my peers online by asking around to see if anyone knows of any such evidence that I do not know of. But so far, all that I have come up with is nada. Zip. Zilch. But even if there were such evidence, that still would not prove that the parents of transgender children should not allow them to live as their self-identified gender, because there comes into play the other fallacy in this compound, that being the appeal to consequences fallacy. The appeal to consequences fallacy is when you know that if A is true, then B must be true, and therefore conclude just from that A cannot be true. And this is a fallacy because for you to conclude that A cannot be true just because it being true would make B true, you first have to properly establish that B is not true. Hypothetically, if there actually were evidence of long-term harm that could be done to a child who identifies as a dragon by preventing that child from living as a dragon, then your analogy would be valid. However, that would not make it okay for the parent of a transgender child to prevent that child from living as their self-identified gender. That would only mean that your mother did something bad to you by not letting you live as a dragon. My scorn for you in that scenario would therefore be somewhat reduced, but it would not be replaced by approval, because the ideas that you spread would still be harmful. But instead of feeling scorn for you, I would feel sorry for you. I would realize that there is a good chance that you only do the harmful things that you do because deep down you are in great pain and anguish for not being allowed to live your life and be respected as the majestic dragon that you would hypothetically have been in that scenario. Of course, in reality, that is not the case. I cannot say whether or not your brain is the brain of a dragon due to the fact that in real life there are no physical/biological dragons to compare your brain to. But I have not been able to find any evidence that forbidding a child to live their life as a dragon has any detriment on them that follows them to adulthood. Really, this is just a false analogy that you came up with in order to bash transgender children.
But if you change, let's say you change at 8 years old and you were a boy and then you chop it, you can't really go back and change it again.
Oh, that's far. I never really thought about that, but...
A second time in one episode, it is time for yet another installment of Fallacy Exposed. And this time your fallacy is the Strongman Fallacy. The Strongman Fallacy is when instead of arguing against someone's actual position, you instead present an argument against a weaker caricature of that person's position. And here's the thing. You are completely right that no 8-year-old should have their male tiny bits chopped off. But the thing is, that is not how it is done. For one thing, when a trans woman has gender alignment surgery, her male thingamajiggy is not chopped off. It is reconfigured into a more, well, feminine form. But furthermore, they do not do that with 8-year-olds. The most medical intervention that would be given to an 8-year-old to help their gender transition is that if that 8-year-old is showing signs of the onset of puberty, they might be given medicine to delay that puberty. At that age, they would not even be given medicine to induce puberty of the gender that they do identify with. The only thing that would be done is to delay them from getting any puberty at all. And the reason why that is done is because to allow them to undergo puberty of the wrong gender would cause irreversible changes in their body, changes that they would be stuck with for the rest of their lives. At that point in life, delaying puberty is the only option that is reversible.
Would you say, though, that an 8-year-old has the, cognitive ability or maturity to make a decision of such a magnitude, to decide their own?
Absolutely not, because I'm 28 years old, bro, and I'm nowhere near the level of maturity.
But again, this is not the opinion of an expert. Also, we do not really know what decision Witt is asking about at this point. Yes, earlier in this video, he talked to that same person about an 8-year-old deciding their gender, but we have no idea what conversation transpired between that clip earlier on and the clip that we are looking at now. For all we know, they could have completely moved on to another subject. Witt is not being transparent enough for us to eliminate that possibility from reasonable consideration.
Because 8-year don't even know what life is about yet.
Okay, An 8-year-old does not have anything near an adult understanding of what life is about yet. But you have to have that level of understanding of what life is about before you know whether you are a boy or a girl. Nobody thinks that to be the case where cisgender children are concerned. And likewise, it would be wrong to assume that where transgender children are concerned.
A lot of those decisions, as a little kid, they don't understand the full capacity of the decision that they're making at that age.
And that is why it is important to make sure that whatever decision is made with regard to the child, as much as possible, is one that can be reversed. However, forcing the child to live and even go through puberty as a gender that clashes with that child's psyche and sense of self, that is not the reversible path. Forcing that on the child can traumatize and potentially even disfigure the child for life. And even that is assuming that the decisions that this interviewee is talking about are decisions about what gender to live as. And once again, Witt is nowhere near transparent enough for us to verify that that is the case. This clip is the first that we see in this video of him speaking to this particular person. And we see in this clip no mention of it being gender that we are even talking about.
At 8 years old, what did you want to be?
What did I want? I don't know. I was playing with Barbies. I might have wanted to be like a model or something. And now I'm like, I don't know about that anymore.
Does that response that she gives to that question sound like the response that one would give if the question were asked in the context of a conversation about a child's gender identity? Or does it sound more like the response that one would give if asked that question in the context of a discussion about something else, such as how much a child's career path should be fixed at such a young age? If that is the case, which I cannot prove but strongly suspect, then I totally agree. No 8-year-old should be required to bind themselves to any particular career path at such a young age.
To be a dragon at 8. It's not going as well as I would have hoped. My career plans have changed a little bit.
Oi, again it is with the dragon. But hey, at least here you are clearly referring to it as a career path rather than as a core identity thing. Still not a very realistic career path, but not the despicable false analogy that you were trying to pass it off as earlier, at least to your YouTube audience. But just to make it perfectly clear, here he specifically says that his failure to become a dragon means his career plans have changed, not his core identity. An important distinction that must not be lost in the shuffle.
We got a pretty mixed bag of answers today, but I would say most people agree that an 8-year-old does not have the capacity to be making life-altering decisions like choosing their own gender.
You might say that, but would I believe you? Not necessarily. You have not been nearly transparent enough for me to verify that you were neither skewing your sample nor quoting people out of context. Furthermore, despite that lack of transparency on your part, the majority of your interviews still seem to support the right of 8-year-olds to assert their gender identity until after you started asking the kinds of questions that were leading questions at best. But furthermore, is it even relevant? Definitely not. There is no reason to regard these people as experts. Just happening to be someone whom Witt ran into while trolling Rodeo Drive with his camera crew does not suggest that that person actually studied the matter academically, has any clinical background, and does not even give someone the benefit of having the experience of having lived as a transgender child. So even if you could verify that every last one of them was diehard against the right of 8-year-olds to assert their gender, which you also failed to do completely, by the way, the only thing that would have said about anything is about their level of understanding of transgender issues.
And parents parents should definitely not be pushing this onto their children.
Parents should not be pushing any gender onto their children, but that includes the gender that those children were assigned at birth. Parents should not be forcing that gender on their children either. Anywho, I hope that you feel that you benefited from having watched this video. Please hit the thumbs up button and leave your comment in the comments area below. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and that the bell icon is active so as to increase the chance that you receive notifications when they upload new videos to this channel in the future. Share this video with your friends and everyone else, whether by social media or by whatever other means. And until next time, see ya!